Alright my sweet summer children, Jules here from FGS, and I'm not going to waste your time with a drawn out intro because Lord knows those sands of time, they be ticking away. What's the premise of today's list? Games you can finish bloody quickly. Boom, done. Whose comment have I picked out from last week's video to make into a full entry today? Harley Twins, what a legend. And if you want to be a part of next week's video, have a think about what great game was reviewed terribly by critics. Phew, working up a sweat over here, I tell you, but let's keep racing on as I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are 10 games you can finish in seconds. Time! Number 10, South Park The Fractured But Whole. Who needs to spend like 15 hours playing through South Park The Fractured But Whole when you can basically just antagonize Cartman into rolling the credits in the first 2 minutes? If you try to skip the game's opening cutscene, Cartman will interject and inform you that you don't want to miss the sweet intro.
No, trust me, you want to hear all of this. Not anymore. Crap. Will you stop interrupting, please?
And if you keep trying to skip it regardless, he'll grow increasingly agitated. Persist with spamming the skip button for a little while longer, and Cartman will eventually capitulate, telling you that you can skip it if you really, really want to, before calling you some very naughty words that we won't repeat here. And just like that, the game suddenly cuts to the end credits, allowing you to beat it in barely a single minute.
Okay, fine, you can skip cutscenes if you really want to.
Granted, you'd be doing yourself out of one of the most riotously hilarious video games ever made, but the option exists for those who technically want to clear the game in record time. Number 9, The Matrix Path of Neo. Now there's little imagery in the Matrix franchise more iconic than Morpheus offering Neo the choice of a red or blue pill, the red pill awakening him to reality while the blue pill keeps him in the hermetically sealed lie that is the Matrix itself. And this choice rather amusingly plays out in the first 2 minutes of The Matrix Path of Neo, where players can pick a pill for themselves. If you take the blue pill and decide that you'd rather remain blissfully ignorant in the Matrix and chow down on one of those juicy steaks like Cypher did, Morpheus sends Neo back to his simulated existence and the game returns you to the title screen. Now it's certainly a fun what if to consider the possibility of Neo rejecting Morpheus's offer and continuing to live a lie, but you're definitely advised to take the red pill here because as licensed video games go, Path of Neo is pretty damn solid. Number 8, Gone Home. Conversely, Walking Simulator Gone Home offers up a totally legitimate way to reach the end of the game in less than a minute, and even gives out an achievement for those nimble-fingered enough to do it. Though you can generally expect to take around 2 hours to beat the game while exploring the house organically, if you know the precise conditions for completion, you can do it in just a fraction of that. It does take a little practice, but by doing only the mandatory objectives needed to roll the credits, you can indeed make it up to the attic and reach the game's ending in under 60 seconds. The current world record sits at an astonishing 46 seconds, and more than a decade removed from its release, it seems rather unlikely that more can possibly be shaved off of it. Number 7, Myst. Ah, Myst. What a brilliant, if completely infuriating puzzle title that makes me feel like my brain was made of Play-Doh at times. It is quite possibly one of the most influential titles ever to exist, seeing as it pretty much laid the groundwork for most open-world formulas and for games that do and will not ever try to hold the player's hand. And speaking of hands, I'm gonna give a crisp high five to Harley's twin here for reminding me that Myst was also a cheeky little whippet when it came to offering players an out right from the start, but only if they thought outside the box. Well, in this case, boxes. You see, if you flip all 8 of these switch boxes, you'll be rewarded with a piece of paper. Head to the prison, input the code, and hand the paper to this beautifully rendered chap, and boom, you are done. No hair-pulling puzzles, no gentle weeping from the game making you think that you have the brain of a baby, and a whole lot of time that you've just freed up to do something else with your life. Brilliant. Number 6, Super Paper Mario. Now while Super Paper Mario technically makes you sit through a 5-minute opening cutscene first, you're able to trigger an ending within seconds of being able to properly interact with the game for the very first time. The cutscene ends with the wizard Merlon tasking Mario with saving the world and asking the plumber if he's up to the task. Hilariously, you're actually given the option of saying, nah, at which point he'll beg you and plead with you to become the world's savior. But if you turn Merlon down 2 more times, he'll begrudgingly accept your decision to doom everyone, at which point the game over screen flashes up and the player is thrown back to the start menu. Oh, and as a passive-aggressive punishment for your refusal to play hero, you'll need to sit through the unskippable opening cutscene all over again when you restart the game. The nerve. Number 5, The Stanley Parable. The Stanley Parable contains several dozen endings for players to discover, the most low effort of which requires you to do almost nothing in the game's opening sections. While the experimental walking sim needs you to walk through an open doorway into the main office to start the game properly, anyone affronted by the idea of spending their leisure time walking around a digital open plan office can go another route. The so-called coward ending simply requires you to walk up to the door and close it. At this point, the narrator rather sarcastically admonishes your refusal to actually, play the game, and after about a minute of him waffling on philosophically, it will abruptly cut to black. The end. You'd of course be robbing yourself of a wonderfully weird time if you just called it a day here, but you can nevertheless complete the game inside of a hot minute should you wish to do so. Number 4. Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. Now, when a game offers no easy way to cut through the middle and reach the end, you can trust the most committed of players to brute force a route by any means necessary, and that's absolutely the case with the 4th Spyro the Dragon game, Enter the Dragonfly. While you can expect to spend 5 or 6 hours to beat the game as the good lord intended, speedrunners eventually discovered a glitch which allowed players to bypass like 99.9% of the game. As soon as you're given control of Spyro, head to the portal on the left-hand side of the screen, which is currently locked as it leads to the final boss battle against Ripto. However, you can use the portal anyway by simply standing on the edge of it, leaping into the air and then performing a ground pound. It might take a few tries, but if you hit the edge of the portal just right, you'll glitch through the ground and immediately be transported to the Ripto fight, which can be mopped up sharpish. The glitch has allowed speedrunners to beat the game in barely a minute, but even relatively unskilled players should be able to get the job done in less than 2. Number 3. Metal Saga. Play through cult classic RPG Metal Saga the quote right way and you'll be looking to spend around 40 hours to reach the end credits. Or you can just sack off the whole adventure and become a mechanic instead. You see, at the very start of the game, you're given the option of becoming an adventure-seeking hunter as your badass father before you did, or taking up the family business instead and training to become a mechanic. Pick the latter and you'll be treated to a brief ending sequence in which you're shown to have become a skilled mechanic, all while your father laments the fact that you didn't follow in his footsteps. After this, a text scroll hilariously lists all the weird and wonderful things throughout the game that you've missed out on, before then adding that you lived one of the most boring lives ever imagined and ended up dying quietly in bed. Oh, tell us how you really feel, game. Number 2. We Happy Few. Because the Matrix isn't the only pill popper in town, We Happy Few also offers players an early exit if they agree to keep taking the feel-good drugs and live inside the grand delusion. In the game's very first minute, players are offered the choice of remembering a traumatic incident from the past mysteriously referred to as the very bad thing, or continuing to take the pill Joy, a euphoric hallucinogen which purges all unhappy memories, included said bad thing. You're obviously supposed to ditch the pills and start an adventure of awakening, but if you decide to chug down another dose of joy instead, you'll return to your zombified hypnotic state, continuing to reside in a dystopian society totally unaware. And the end credits will then abruptly roll. And without spoiling anything, considering what the very bad thing is eventually revealed to be, you can't really blame anyone for deferring to the happy pills. And number 1, Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail. And we'll wrap things up with a bit more of a light-hearted entry now, the 1996 adventure game adaptation of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Upon booting up the game, you'll reach a menu with 3 options: collect the Grail, see the film, and register now. And given that the clear goal of the game is to collect the Holy Grail, anyone who clicks collect the Grail will immediately be sent to a congratulatory screen where you're given the Grail and some thoroughly tongue-in-cheek praise for, well, reaching the end of the game. After this, the game will suddenly quit to the desktop, ensuring that you've achieved the titular quest in literally a matter of seconds, satisfaction be damned. To play the game proper, of course, you need to select register now. As for the see the film option, well, it offers an incredibly sped up version of Monty Python and the Holy Grail that lasts all of 10 seconds. If you ever wondered if it were possible for a video game to be made 100% sarcastically, this evidently has the answer. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video games that you can finish in seconds. I hope that you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. And thank you again to Harley's Twin for their suggestion. And if you want to be part of next week's video, have a think about what great game was reviewed terribly by critics. Let me know down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome, my friends. Never forget that. I hope you're treating yourself well. And remember, above all else, you're a big ledge. Now get out there and smash it. Speak to you soon. Bye.